Alrighty, what is going on everybody? Pretender here, back with another Honkai Star guide, and today I will be providing a full build guide for Imbibitor Lunae Danheng. Imbibitor Lunae Danheng will be returning in the first part of 2.0 along with Black Swan. So in this video I will be going over the materials you need for him, obviously his kit, his best Lightcones, his relics, and the stats you want on the relics. Before I get to the video, if you guys can drop a sub, turn on the bell icon for future videos like this. I do plan on doing a build guide for the remaining 2.0 characters, being Sparkle and Jingwan. And so again, if you can drop a sub, turn on the bell icon for future videos like this, summons, showcases, all that kind of stuff will be on this channel. Would be greatly appreciated. Let's get straight into the video. So Danheng is a imaginary destruction character. The whole thing with him is he consumes skill points to do more damage. And so his basic attack uses a 2-hit attack and deals imaginary damage equal to 100% of Danheng Imbibitor Lunae's attack to a single target enemy. So now moving on to his actual skill, this is where he becomes very interesting. Enhances basic attack. Enhancements may be applied up to 3 times consecutively. Using this ability does not consume skill points and is not considered a skill. Enhance once, Beneficent Lotus becomes Transcendence. Enhance twice, Beneficent Lotus becomes Divine Spear. And enhance thrice, Beneficent Lotus becomes Fulgurant Leap. When using Divine Spear or Fulgurant Leap, starting from the 4th hit, 1 stack of Outroar is gained before every hit. Each stack of Outroar increases Danheng's crit damage by 12% for a max of 4 stacks, and these stacks last until the end of his turn. So, now is where it gets interesting. So obviously it doesn't need skill, but you can enhance it multiple times, and enhancing it once will use a skill point, twice will use 2 skill points, and 3 times will use 3 skill points. And the more you consume, the stronger it gets, obviously. So enhancing his basic attack once will consume a skill point, and his single target uses a 3-hit attack and deals imaginary damage equal to 260% of Danheng's attack to a single enemy target. Using it twice will consume 2 skill points and uses a 5-hit attack and deals imaginary damage equal to 380% of Danheng's attack to a single enemy target. From the 4th hit onward, simultaneously deals imaginary damage equal to 60% of Danheng's attack to adjacent targets. And once you get to max stacks, using 3 skill points, uses a 7-hit attack that deals imaginary damage equal to 500% of Danheng's attack to a single enemy target. From the 4th hit onward, simultaneously deals imaginary damage equal to 180% of Danheng's attack to adjacent targets. So yes, the more skill points you use, the stronger the basic attack will become. His ultimate uses a 3-hit attack that deals imaginary damage equal to 300% of Danheng's attack to a single enemy target. At the same time, deals imaginary damage equal to 140% of Danheng's attack to adjacent targets. Then obtains 2, I'm not going to say this, but pretty much it is a thing. If you look, I'll pop up a picture right there. If you look for those, what those are is pretty much they are just there to when you have charges on there. When you use the skill, it won't consume a skill point. So you can have a maximum of 3. Having 3 would mean if you use the skill to max, you would not consume any skill points. If you have 2, if you max it out, you'd only consume 1 skill point. And then again, if you have 1 and you use it all the way to 3, you would only have to consume 2 skill points instead of 3. And then if you have none, you'd have to consume all 3. It's possible to hold up to 3, as I said, the stacks, which can be used to offset Danheng's consumption of skill points, as I just explained. Consuming the stacks is considered equivalent to consuming skill points. So yes, they are pretty much just skill point usages, but without using them. And so his talent, after each hit dealt during an attack, Danheng gains 1 stack of Righteous Heart, increasing his damage by 10%. This effect can stack up to 6 times, lasting until the end of his turn. So the more hits you do, the more stacks you'll get here, and since he hits a bunch with a fully charged up basic attack, it would be relatively easy to get the full stack from this talent, and it is very powerful. Getting a 60% damage increase is very, very powerful. And so his technique, after using his technique, Danheng enters the Leaping Dragon state for 20 seconds. While in Leaping Dragon state, using his attack enables him to move forward rapidly for a set distance, attacking all enemies he touches and blocks all incoming attack. After entering combat via attacking enemies in Leaping Dragon state, Danheng deals imaginary damage equal to 120% of his attack to all enemies, and he will gain 1 of those stacks that I mentioned. His first bonus ability, when dealing damage to enemy targets with imaginary weakness, crit damage increases by 24%. So, if they are weak to imaginary, you get a free 24% crit damage bonus, no questions asked. His second bonus ability increases the chance to resist crowd control debuffs by 35%. And his third bonus ability, at the start of the battle, immediately regenerates 15 energy. And so that is Dan Heng's kit. So now really quickly I'm going to be going over his Eidolons. I don't really account for the Eidolons, but it's always good to go over them, because especially with Dan Heng's, because his Eidolons are very powerful. So his first Eidolon increases the stackable Righteous Hearts count by 4 and gains 1 extra stack of Righteous Heart for each hit during an attack. Alone, gaining more stacks for Righteous Heart, so more damage overall, and getting an extra stack of Righteous Heart for each hit during an attack is already insane, increasing his overall damage potential and how easy it is to get it. His second Eidolon is also really good, because after using his ultimate, Dan Heng's action is advanced forward by 100%, and he gains an extra stack for the skill point things. A whole extra turn just by using his ultimate. That is insane. His fourth Eidolon, the buff granted by the Outroar lasts until the end of this character's next turn. And his final Eidolon, after any other ally uses their ultimate, the imaginary res pen of Dan Heng's next Fulgurant Leap attack increases by 20% and can stack up to 3 times. So, his Eidolons, very good. I think the first 2 are definitely the best ones overall, because 1, you get more stacks, and you make it easier to get Righteous Heart stacks, because you get another extra stack by hitting an enemy. And then his second Eidolon, getting in a whole extra turn and a free skill point usage, is also just absolutely insane, especially with the damage output that Dan Heng has. So now with this kit out of the way, what you need 65 of to send him fully is from the Shape of Puppetry. You need a total of 65 of these to get him to level 80. And as for the weekly boss / Echo of War, you will be needing to do Divine Seed. You will need a total of 12 for these to max out all his talents. And yeah, so that is Dan Heng's kit and some of the materials you need to mainly get him up to 80 along with his talents. And so now I'm going to be moving on to his Lightcones. So the best Lightcone for Dan Heng is obviously his own, and his own increases the wearer's crit rate by 18%. So already you're getting 18% crit rate, which makes getting crit stats a lot easier. And being able to focus on other stats that aren't crit rate makes it slightly easier. When the wearer uses their basic attack, they will gain 1 stack of Dragon's Call, lasting for 2 turns. Each stack of Dragon's Call increases the wearer's attack by 18% and energy regeneration rate by 6%, and can be stacked up to 2 times. So since Dan Heng is, you don't actually use the skill to attack, because all it does is enhance your basic attack, you'll practically always be using your basic attack outside of his ultimate. So you can easily have this pretty much always up, so having this up at all times pretty much just gives you a free 36% attack buff and a free 12% energy regeneration rate buff. So overall, his best Lightcone is his own. It is very good on him. Another really good one on him is actually the 4-star Under the Blue Sky. What it does is increases the wearer's attack by 16%, and when you defeat an enemy, you gain a 12% crit rate bonus for 3 turns. And since Dan Heng has AoEs, he hits super hard, it's not that hard to get the crit rate bonus, and a lot of people will have dupes on this, and at R5, you get a 32% unconditional attack bonus, along with defeating an enemy, gives you 24% crit rate for 3 turns, which absolutely insane. And if you don't really have either of those as an option, you can definitely use the free-to-play Herda Lightcone. What it does is, whenever the wearer attacks, their attack is increased by 8% in this battle. This effect can stack up to 4 times. So pretty much attacking 4 times will give you a attack increase by 32%. And after a character inflicts weakness break on an enemy, the wearer's damage increases by 12% for 2 turns. So, not only are you getting the 32% attack increase, you are also getting a 12% damage increase for 2 turns when you inflict a weakness break. And since it's free, with time you can get this R5 if you don't already have it, and the attack increase goes up to 16%, still stacking up to 4 times. So pretty much you're doubling what you get at R1. So instead of getting a total of 32%, you now get a 64% attack increase. And when you inflict weakness break, you get a damage increase by 24% for 2 turns. So overall, this is also a very powerful option on Dan Heng, and it's very accessible to every player. So very good option. And if you for some reason do not have any of those as an option right now, you could technically use the Battle Pass one. I would advise against it, because this is also, you can only get this by being pay to play. And if you're pay to play and you don't have any of the other 3s, I don't know what you're doing. So what it does is increases the wearer's attack by 24%, so unconditional 24%. And when you defeat an enemy, they restore HP equal to 12% of their attack, which is like, it's cool, I guess. And then at R5, you get a 48% unconditional, which is nice. But then the HP is all that. What these 3 provide compared to this one is a lot better, And again, if you're pay to play, you probably will have at least one of this, maybe some of these, or maybe you'll be going for his Lightcone. So I'd advise you not using this and just sticking to one of these two if you don't have his, if you're not going to be going for his signature Lightcone. But again, if you really have no other option for whatever reason, it's there. And now moving on to his best relics, the best of the best relic set for him will actually be the 4-piece imaginary set. What it does is the 2-piece increases your imaginary damage by 10%. And his 4-piece, when attacking debuffed enemies, the wearer's crit rate increases by 10% and their crit damage increases by 20% against imprisoned enemies. And so this does pair very well with his bonus ability. If they are weak to imaginary, it is relatively, not even relatively, it's very easy to weakness break with Dan Heng, considering how hard he hits, how many attacks he hits in a full skill point consumed basic attack. So getting them in prison is relatively easy if they are weak to imaginary, and if they're not, you can run someone like Silver Wolf, which also would fill this portion right here when they are debuffed. Silver Wolf will fix that and can also apply imaginary weakness, so pairing very well together. And if they are imprisoned, you not only get the crit damage bonus from his bonus ability, if they're weak to imaginary, you now get another 20% if they are imprisoned, so very, very powerful. Another option is actually the 4-piece Musketeers, which increases attack by 12%, and then the 4-piece, the wearer's speed increases by 6%, and basic attack increases, or basic attack damage increases by 10%. This one's like alright with him too, because again, his whole thing is coming from his basic attack damage. You'll be missing out on the alt damage, but his main source of damage will be his basic attack, so this also does work on him. If you can't do a 4-set imaginary set, I'd definitely recommend just doing 2-piece and 2-piece. I think the imaginary damage bonus and having the attack bonus together is very, very solid as well. Again, obviously try to get a full set here, but if you can't, 2-piece is good. And if you really have none of these, 4-piece is also alright. And for his planar ornaments, the best one will be this one right here, because what it does is increases the wearer's crit rate by 8%, and when your crit rate increases 70% or higher, the wearer's basic attack and skill damage increase by 20%. This one is his best one, especially because it is increasing your basic attack damage by 20% and is also giving you crit rate. And getting the 70% crit rate might prove difficult for some people depending on your build, but it is still achievable, especially with Dan Heng. And if you have a signature Lightcone, and even if you don't, I don't actually even have it myself right now, and he is always above 70% crit rate. It is relatively easy to get him there, even without like crazy rolls. But yeah, this one is mainly the best one because it does give you some crit rate along with giving you this basic attack bonus, or basic attack damage bonus right here. Very, very powerful. Another option is Heart of Space Station, because he does scale off his attack pretty heavily. So this one gives you a total of 24% attack if you have 120 speed or higher, which is, again, very achievable. 120 speed is a very big norm. So, not even 120 speed, having higher than 120 speed, like 130 speed-ish is like a pretty big norm now. So getting this is relatively easy, so 24% attack buff right there. And I only recommend the Glamour set if you are able to get him to 160 speed. Because Dan Heng, depending on how you build him and personal preference, he is usually going to be built on the slightly slower side. But with buffs and stuff, obviously it's definitely possible. So what this one does is you get a 12% attack increase right here, just flat out. And if you have 135 speed or higher, you get a 12% damage increase. And if you have 160 speed, you get a plus 18% to that damage increase. So if you have 160 speed or higher, you get a total of 30% damage bonus plus the attack bonus from this one, just because it's flat out. So again, I would relatively advise against going against using the set on Dan Heng, and I definitely recommend going over this one the most, because this one is going to be his best one overall. But this is, again, a option if you are able, only if you're able to get him to 160 speed, which for the most case and how you're going to build him, it is relatively unlikely to get this without a good amount of buffs, but again, it's an option. As for the main stats, the head and hands will obviously remain untouched because you can't change them. So the body will be crit rate or crit damage corresponding to which one you need. If you have, let's say you're running this planar ornament, you're most likely going to run crit rate on the body because you want to have the 70%, and getting 30 plus crit rate from the body is very, very helpful. But if you have really good substats and you get up to enough, you can run crit damage instead. And for the feet, I would recommend going attack percent. But if you want to have a speedy Dan Heng, or if you want to run him with the Glamour set instead, you could do speed on it because it does work out pretty well. But I would mostly recommend going attack percent. And for the planar ornaments, I recommend going imaginary damage bonus on the orb and attack percent on the rope. As for subsets, I recommend getting first speed subsets because, again, as I mentioned, Dan Heng's on the slower side because you're not giving him speed boots for the most part. But having speed subsets will help him not be going after getting attacked a bunch by the enemies, potentially getting stunned and all that stuff. So having speed on his subsets is very helpful, and I definitely would recommend trying to get a good amount of speed through the subsets alone. After speed, crit rate or crit damage is obviously a given because you want him to crit, so crit rate is very helpful, and you want him to do a lot of damage, so crit damage is also very helpful. And so I would definitely say they're around equal. You want to have crit rate rolls, you want to have crit damage rolls, and so either are really good. And after that, attack percent, obviously because he scales pretty heavily off his attack percent, but you're already getting a bunch of attack percent from having the ropey attack percent along with the feet being attack percent. And for the most part, he will have high attack percent, so it is definitely the lower of the priority, but it is still good to have. And so that is the full build guide on Dan Heng. Let me know if you guys will be summoning for him. I'm personally really hyped to see him rerun. I know a lot of people did end up actually missing him, and he is still to this day one of the best DPSs. And it's also Dan Heng. He's sick. Just look at him. But yeah, hope you guys found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.